the Packers' loss to the Commanders, which is hilarious to say out loud. That's three in a row for Rodgers. I don't think he's been 3-4 in his career. They abandoned the run, 12 attempts. They were 0 for on third down. Rodgers was screaming, "What the F are we doing?" The offensive line is broke, both pass and run defense. They got a pick six in the next two drives. The Packers had negative yards. It was about as bad as it gets. And your buddy, Mr. Matt LaFleur, seems confused on offense.
Well, I mean, this is the Matt LaFleur we saw at Tennessee before he became the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. This offense is reminiscent. I'm going to do some research on that this afternoon on the Matt LaFleur Tennessee offense that when Arthur Smith took it over became very good, right? And when he ran it, it was horrible. Sir Don Martindale held him to no third downs. The reason I talk about this third down is the LaFleur brothers over the last 2 weeks between the Jets and the Packers are 8 for 47 on third down. 8 for 47 on third down. Think about that. I can say this. I'm not a math major, but that ain't good. And look, I mean, Big Daddy's upset, and he has every right to be. He wants somebody's head on a platter. He has every right. He doesn't know where to go to blame. Dry Alexander was supposed to be the greatest corner in America. He gets toasted by McLaurin yesterday. They lose a game. They get 2 pick six, really. The one pick six got called back on a very, whatever you want to do with that call, but they can't move the ball. I mean, they can't get any rhythm going offensively. And I've said this before, and I'll keep saying it. This is a design problem, right? You can blame the players all you want. LaFleur has known who's on his team since April. Since the 1st of May, he's known who's on his team. For him to run this offense, the same offense as if he had Davante Adams, for him not to try to get his two best players involved in the game, which are A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, is criminal. He's won 2 games. Against New England, he ran for $1.99. Against the Bears, he ran for 203. Like, at some point, when does he say, this is what I have, this is how I have to win the game? But he has the greatest quarterback in the league, and this guy's coming off an MVP season, and now you're telling me he's this bad? You telling me he's this bad?
Completely abandoned the run. You just mentioned just 12 attempts. Over the past 3 weeks, the Packers offense somehow has gotten progressively worse, and there doesn't seem to be any answers coming. What you just said is fascinating because essentially what you're saying is Matt LaFleur has a system. If he can't fit those pieces into the system, he can't adjust, and that's damning moving forward.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a listener on GM Shuffle that tweeted this to Femi and I yesterday, Patrick. But basically, if you look at his halftime adjustments, the Packers' second half scoring going back to the 49er game. Okay, going back to that, they've scored 49 points since then. They scored 3 against San Francisco, 7 against Minnesota, 3 against Chicago, none against Tampa. They scored 20 against New England. They scored 2 against the Giants. 7 against the Jets and 7 against Washington. That's been their offensive production since the San Francisco game and into this year. And so what does that tell us? It tells us we're not having any adjustment. And so what I say, there's 2 things that you always look for with teams. We always talk about players, coaches, and scheme. But beyond that, you have to look at, is it a production problem or is it a design problem? Production meaning, are there plays on the tape that we're just not executing, or is the design not giving us plays? And when you watch the Packers, they don't have a design. He's trying to run Davante Adams' offense, and Davante's in Las Vegas, right? Nobody's rolling the coverage to these receivers. Nobody's scared of your passing game. They can play man-to-man across the board. Nobody's worried about blitzing Rodgers because you're fearful that Davante Adams is going to give up a bit. You're going to give up a bit. So what do you have to do? You got to change it. So maybe you go to 3 tight ends. Well, Rodgers doesn't want to be under center. He wants to be in shotgun. Whatever he wants to be in, we'll figure out how to work it. That's the job of a coach. I mean, the fact that he's won all these games, and every year I got to listen, well, LaFleur's won 13 games. You're too hard on him. I mean, I watched him in Tennessee. That's why I'm hard on him.
Speaking of Las Vegas, you just mentioned Davante Adams. What happened with Vegas yesterday is once they got the lead, they started pounding the ball. What happened with the Dallas Cowboys? They started pounding the ball. What the hell's going on with LaFleur? You're up 14-3 over the Commanders. Run the football. Your 2 best players on offense outside of Rodgers are your running backs. Why aren't you running the football? You had 12 attempts in the game. That's malpractice.
Well, if I were in Green Bay, I would say, hey, Matt, I'm just going to give you a little clue. I watch the NFL I watch every game in the NFL every week. And every team that is in a two-back set that runs the ball runs it effectively. Why? Because most of the defenses don't know how to defend two-back runs anymore. There was a time in the NFL where that's all you practiced, two-back runs. But now, because of all the shotgun, because of all the set, nobody's practicing two-back runs. Nobody's practicing point-of-attack runs, cut-the-defense runs. Nobody's practicing point-of-entry runs. So when you run the ball out of two-back like they do in Las Vegas, you're going to have some big holes. I mean, look at some of the holes Jacobs had to run through. So what do we need to do? We need to get Aaron Jones in a two-back set, or we need to get something going here. And to me, that's called coaching. Figure out what you have and then adapt to it. Don't just think because I have Rodgers, I can fill, Devontae Adams leaves, I put another. No, they're not X's or Z's. They're players.
Aaron Rodgers has never been a doubles dog in his career. Stephen Bond's Buffalo Bills will host the Green Bay Packers next Sunday night. On paper, the matchup looks good, and right now I've got Circa at 11.5. I've got DraftKings 10.5, so it's going to close doubles with the Packers. And Aaron Rodgers says this might be what's good for us.
I'm not worried about this squad. In fact, this might be the best thing for us this week. Nobody's going to give us a chance. Go on to Buffalo and Sunday Night Football. The chance to get exposed. Shoot. Might be the best thing for us.
Seems fun. You know what I love?
Who's going to get exposed? Who's going to get exposed? I mean, well, not Mike's in the Jets. He's riding high. I mean, they keep their 4-game winning streak, with doing 0 on offense. But give Saleh credit. I mean, they've basically told Zach Wilson, you're really not participating. We're just going to hand this ball off.
We don't want you involved in this team.
You're not going to be involved. And I give him complete props for doing it. I give him it's the only chance he has to win the game. At least give him credit for that. But look, what's LaFleur going to change against Buffalo? I mean, the problem is, can Green Bay stop Buffalo's offense? I think there's 3 teams in the league, Patrick. I think it's I think it's Buffalo, Kansas City, and the Eagles. Based on what San Francisco did yesterday, you can't say they're an elite team.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds. Listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.